How many games will New England Patriots win in 2024? What's going on, Pats Nations and Pats fans? It's Mayon Jones here, back up with another NFL record prediction. And this time we'll be doing our record prediction for New England Patriots for the NFL 2024 NFL season. We're going to get started here. I'm going to give you my thoughts to see how many games I think the Patriots will win and how many games I think the Patriots will lose. So before I give you my record prediction for New England Patriots for 2024 NFL season, don't forget to put a thumbs up outside the video, subscribe to my channel for more options, and don't forget to comment down your opinion below to see how many games you think the Patriots will win. Do you think they're going to make the playoffs? Or else you think they're going to win? Do you think they're going to win the division, or you think they're going to miss the playoffs again? Let me know in the comments down below what you guys think. Well, let's get started here. So week 1, they got to play against Cincinnati Bengals. Obviously, I got them losing to the Bengals because the Bengals, are a better team overall, better quarterback, better coaching staff. They're at home. And on top of that, they got better weapons on offense as well that really can attack the Patriots down the field. And on top of that, Bengals have a better defense, in my opinion. I think their defense can find a way to make life difficult on who's playing quarterback for the Patriots. Now, I don't really know who the quarterback is going to be. So if it's a rookie, I wouldn't trust him on the road. So yeah, especially the Bengals have a great secondary that can really get sticky against an unwhelmed receiving core. So yeah, especially the Bengals did improve their offensive line. I think they can control the Patriots pass rush, but I think I don't think the Patriots offensive line is any good. So I think the Bengals defensive line can give them issues and overwhelm the Patriots O line, which is not good. So it's a bad match for the Patriots, which that's why I think the Bengals are gonna win week 1. Week 2, they gotta play against the Seahawks. Obviously, this is kind of a tricky game, but obviously it can go either way. Now, some people could be picking the Seahawks to win the game because Seattle's a better team. The Patriots can definitely win this game too. But you know what though? This could be one of my trap games of the week because some people could pick the Patriots to win because the Patriots are at home. But I don't know. I might want to come back to this one, so I'm just going to leave this a tie for now. Then week 3, they play against the Jets on a short week, Thursday Night Football. I actually got them losing to the Jets the first time because the game's in New York. And, the Jets kind of really beat them last year just in one game where they beat them in New England. And the Patriots have swept this season series since 2016, where I think the Jets have beat them in 2015, I believe. I think last time Jets have beat them since 2015, and then they ended the streak. So yeah, I think the Jets will win the first game because the Jets are at home. They have a better quarterback. They're a better team overall coming into this season. And on top of that, a rookie against an elite defense like the Jets, I mean, that's totally not good. So I think the Jets, win this game, especially they got more skill group on offense as well. So yeah. Next game, week 4, they got San Francisco 49ers. This is East to West Coast. So obviously the Niners should easily win this game because they're the best team, better quarterback, better coach staff. They're at home. And they're the more complete team. A rookie on the road against the elite defense like the Niners, yeah. Niners easily win that game, especially they got more skill group on offense as well. So yeah. Week 5, we got the Patriots versus Dolphins. Obviously, this is a game that can go either way. I can definitely see the Patriots beating the Dolphins once, but obviously in my Dolphins video, I have the Patriots getting swept by the Dolphins. I could definitely change that, so I don't know. I'm just gonna say that the Dolphins win the first matchup. I actually got them beating the Patriots because I think the Dolphins, I'm just going to say they just get swept by the Dolphins because, the Dolphins, are just a better team overall, better core, better coaching staff. And especially, I got them losing to the Dolphins in Miami because, the game's in Miami and they always beat the Patriots in Miami. And I don't even remember the last time the Patriots that beat the Dolphins on the road. So yeah, that's pretty much why I got the Dolphins sweeping the Patriots because I just need to see it before I believe it because the Patriots have never beat Tua, but Tua has beat the Patriots. But I believe back in like 2 years ago, I believe the Patriots did beat them once with when Tua was hurt. So yeah, I got the Dolphins in both games. Next game, we have the Houston Texans versus the New England Patriots. Obviously, this is a game that can go either way, but I feel like that's a game I think the Patriots could definitely win. But I'm going with the Texans here. I feel like the Texans are a more complete team, better quarterback, better coaching staff. And on top of that, I just think a defense is definitely going to give the Patriots offense, especially with their pass rush. And they have a great secondary that can like man up against an underwhelming receiving core of the Patriots and all that. So yeah, and I feel like Stephon Diggs will be a challenge for the Patriots defense as well, too. So yeah, especially the Texans are just more explosive on offense than the Patriots. So yeah, that's why I got the Texans win that game. Week 7 against Jacksonville. Obviously, I got the Jaguars win that game because Jacksonville, is not in Jacksonville. The game's in London, and Jacksonville seems to play really well against London. Jacksonville is going to be a sneaky good team. They got good weapons on offense. They got a great defensive line that's improved, a secondary that's improved, good linebackers. Offensive line is still a little sketchy. Maybe the Patriots' defensive line can give them issues, but it's Trevor Lawrence. Jags, I feel like they're just going to be more explosive on offense because, they have a lot of good weapons that really can give the Patriots defense issues like Brian Thomas, Gabe Davis, Evan Ingram, Christian Kirk, Travis Etienne. Like, that's a lot of weapons on offense for Jacksonville, and that can really give the Patriots defense some issues as well. So I think it could be a defensive game. It could be close, though, than we expected. But I think Jacksonville will win. Don't forget to remember that Jacksonville definitely have lost to the Patriots one time when where Trevor Lawrence did struggle in this game. But I feel like Trevor Lawrence will have a good game here. So yeah, and especially there's the more complete team, have the better quarterback, better coaching, and they're at home. Well, it does feel like home in London, but I think Jacksonville finds a way to win that game. Next game, they play against the New York Jets. Obviously, I'm not going to say the Patrons are going to get swept by the Jets. Now, a lot of people are saying that they will because the Jets, got Aaron Rodgers and they're a better team overall. But I don't really care. But I got the Patrons splitting the season series. So basically, they would end at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They win a 5-game losing streak. But if they lose to the Seahawks, that'll be 6. Because I starting off 0-2 is kind because starting off winless, like starting off 0-7 is kind of tough, but I have a feeling the Patrons are gonna like maybe this is their first win. I don't know, but I feel like they're gonna like split with the Jets like they always do because they keep beating the Jets every year. They own the Jets. I mean the defense is just gonna like find a way to give Aaron Rodgers the Jets offense issues. Like the Patriots have played the Jets really well. They have good corners that can match up well with Garrett Wilson. They have a good pass rush that can really get after Aaron Rodgers. So yeah, I think the Patrons, win this game. Next game, week 9, they got the Patrons versus Titans. Obviously, this is a game that can definitely go either way. Now, some people could be picking the Patrons to win because the Patrons own the Titans. But here's the thing. The Titans, I have a feeling like they did made a lot of improvements this offseason. They added tons of weapons like Calvin Ridley, Tyler Boyd, Tony Pollard. The offensive line is got better, especially the defense is still the same, especially their pass rush, the linebackers group, and the secondary actually did get better by adding, L'Jarius Sneed and Chihuahua Uze, and Roger McCreary is there, and Amani Hooker. So the Titans got a really good defense too. But you know what? I feel like this game is going to be very close and competitive. I have a feeling that's a game I think the Patriots can definitely win because their defense matches up well with the Titans and they can give the Titans offense issues. But at the same time, I am going to go with Tennessee to win this game because I just think the Titans are going to be a little bit more explosive on offense than the Patriots. Like, I feel like the Titans got better weapons than them, and I feel like that this defense is just going to give the Patriots offensive line issues, especially they don't, especially the Patriots ain't going to be able to run the ball as good because their defense, because Titans defensive line is very strong with Harold Landry and Jeffrey Simmons. I mean, that defensive line, is very strong. So yeah, yeah, because our defensive line is pretty strong with those guys and Arden Key and Sebastian Joseph Day. I mean, yeah, I mean the Titans' defensive line is very strong. So I think So I feel like this game is gonna be a low scoring game, but I think the Titans' defense will come through, and I think the defense will win the game as well. And on top of that, their secondary is pretty strong, which I think they can find a way to like play sticky against an underwhelming receiving core. So yeah, so I think it will be close, but I think it's gonna be ugly. But I think the Titans will defense will win this game. But I wouldn't be shocked if the Patriots won. Then week 10 they got playing against the Bears. Honestly, this is a tricky game that can go either way. I think this is a team I think the Patriots can definitely win with their defense, playing against a young quarterback in Caleb Williams. But I am going to go with the Bears here to win this game because I just think the Bears are just a more complete team. They're at home. They have better coaching staff. Chicago's kind of a weird place to play at where it could be windy in there with the weather environment and all that. So yeah, and I have a feeling that the Bears have better skill group on offense, especially with Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, Rome Duze, and Cole Kmet and DeAndre Swift. I feel like the Bears are gonna be a little bit more explosive on offense than the Patriots. Like, I don't think the Patriots offense is just gonna have a lot of explosive ability. So yeah, I just have a feeling that Caleb Williams could definitely have a good game here, but at the same time, the Patriots defense can give him a tough time because the Patriots, when they play against young quarterbacks, when they play against young quarterbacks, when the Patriots play against a young quarterback, that's when their defense, starts to play really well in. And I think the defense can give Caleb some problems because this is Caleb's, first year in the NFL, which I think the Patriots defense can do a good job, like maybe like stopping their running game, getting pressure on him. But I think the Bears defensive line is kind of sketchy a little bit outside of Montez Sweat. So I think, the Patriots can run the ball on them. But at the same time, the Bears have a great secondary, which they can man up against an underwhelming receiving core. And I think Montez Sweat is going to be a problem for that Patriots O line as well. So yeah. So I think the Bears win this game in a close one, but I say the defense comes through. Week 11, they play against the Rams. Obviously, this is a game I think the Patriots can win, but I got the Rams win this game. Um, Rams are just the overall better team, better coaching staff, better quarterback, and on top of that, they're just more explosive on offense. I just feel like that the explosiveness on offense is just going to be too much for the Patriots defense to handle. I think they're just going to give the Patriots defense problems. But you know what? The Rams O line is pretty solid. Maybe they can put the Patriots pass rush in a bad position where they can't like come through. But I think the Rams defensive line is a bit shaky because they don't have Aaron Donald on there. So maybe the Patriots can run the ball on them, but the Rams' defensive line is still okay. They got young players who can play at a high level. Their secondary did improve a little bit, so maybe they can at least like get sticky against a bad receiving core of the Patriots. So yeah, I think it could be close because I think the Patriots defense can definitely give the Rams offense a tough time. But I think, the Rams find a way to pull it. Because I think the Patriots have the corners to match up well with the Rams receiver. They have the passers to get after Matt Stafford. But at the same time, I know the game's in New England, and I know it's West Coast to East. But I think the Rams. But I think that's a game I think New England can win. But I think the Rams are gonna win this game because they're just a better team overall. So yeah, that's pretty much why. Next game they have to play against the Colts at home. Obviously, this game right here is kind of tough to predict. Now, some people could be picking the Colts to win because they're a better team overall and have better coaching, but I don't really know. I'm probably going to hold on to that. So, week 14, they have the bye week. Then coming after the bye, they get an extra week to prepare and watch film. Then they have to play, after the bye against the Cardinals week 15. This is going to be a tricky game to watch. Now, this can go either way. Now, this is a game I think the Cardinals can definitely win because I think the Cardinals going to be a little bit more explosive on offense than the Patriots. But at the same time, the Cardinals don't have a great defense overall, but they have a good offense. But the Patrons, have a great defense. They have a better defense, which I think that can definitely give Kyler issues, which Kyler could be a challenge at times. But I know the games in Arizona is east or west, where Arizona's kind of a tricky place to play at. But I am leaning towards the Patrons because they're coming off a bye. They have a week to prepare. And I just feel like the Patrons just have the better defense. And I think their defense can definitely win them a game. And I think, their offense can too. Like, the Cardinals don't really have a great secondary, which I think, Drake May could definitely be playing this game. So it could be Drake May's season. And I think he can find a way to figure it out against, an underwhelming, against an atrocious secondary of the Cardinals. So, yeah. And the Patriots got weapons on offense that can really do that and take advantage of that. And I think the defense can definitely do a good job, stopping the run, make life difficult on Kyler. They have corners that can cover Marvin Harrison Jr. and those other weapons they have. So yeah, that's why I think the Patriots win that game. Then week 16 and week 18, they got back-to-back versus the Bills. I got them losing both games against the Bills. Now, the reason why is that the Bills are a better team. They have the better quarterback, better coaching staff. And especially the Bills are going to be at home in the first game, and they'll be away the second game. So I think the Bills are going to at least, sweep them. I can definitely see the Patriots beating them once, like last year, but I just don't see it happening. Then the final game, then week 17, they have to play against the Chargers. This is on a Saturday. Obviously, this is a game that can go either way. I feel like that's a game I think the Chargers can definitely win because they have a better quarterback and all that and have a better coach. But at the same time, I think I remember last year the Chargers kind of barely beat them by 6-0. That's when the game was kind of defensive. It was kind of a weird game last year. It was low scoring, but I think it could happen again. But you know what? I'm going to lean towards the Patriots to win this game at home because I think, the Chargers, defense, they're not good on defense. They're not good against the run at times. They're not good against the pass. Now, I think, the Patriots can take advantage on offense, throwing at them. And I think Drake May is probably going to make some big time throws. And I think they can run the ball on them a little bit. And I think the Patriots kind of got more weapons on offense than the Chargers. The Chargers don't really have a lot of scary receivers. But they have a good pass rush that can really give the Patriots offensive line some fits. But their secondary is totally fine. But I think the Patriots got a better defense than the Chargers, which they do a better job stopping the run. And I don't think the Chargers really have a run game to depend on. I think the Patriots can do a good job, making life difficult on Justin Herbert and all that. Especially they have a great secondary that can really man up against an underwhelming receiving core of the Chargers. So, yeah. So I think the Patriots, find a way to win this game. Especially they kind of really own this rivalry against, the Chargers. All right, so right now the Patriots are sitting at 3-12-2. So obviously, in my opinion, I think they're gonna at least win one of these games against Seattle Seahawks or the Colts. I think they're gonna win one of these games against Seahawks or the Colts because they're both at home and it's kind of tricky. You know what? I don't really think the Patrons are gonna start season off 0-7. So you know what? I'm just gonna give them a win against the upset win against Seahawks, and I'm gonna give them. I might give them a win against the Colts. I'm not for sure. Maybe I do. I don't know if I'm confident in it. But I'm just gonna do it. I'm just gonna say they win both games against Seahawks and the Colts. I just got them winning against the Seahawks because the home opener, and I feel like the Patriots match up well with the Seahawks really good. They have a great secondary that can man up against the Seahawks receiving core, and I think their pass rush can get after Geno. They have a strong defensive line that can do that. So I think their defense can definitely win in this game as well. So yeah. And then the reason why I got the beating the Colts is because the Colts don't have a great secondary, and I think that the Patriots offense can take advantage of it. And I think Drake May can do it though if he's playing. But they won't be able to run the ball since really well because the Colts the Colts defensive line is really strong. Because we know the Patriots can't block, but yeah. And then I feel like the Patriots have a better defense, and I think their pass rush can make life difficult on Anthony Richardson, and they can stop their running game and slow down Jonathan Taylor, and they have the corners to match up well with the Colts receivers. So yeah, and I just have a feeling that I'm not sure what Anthony Richardson's gonna look like. Like we don't know what his health is. Like we don't know how good he's gonna be because I think the Colts are a physical team. They probably have some upside. They could be good this year. Like who knows? Who knows? I mean, that's why I'm taking New England. So right now I have the Patrons at 5-12, which that's kind of better than last year. But I don't really know because they won 4 games last year. But I think that's kind of better than last year because I think the Patrons could be better than people think. But when you look at the schedule, it's tough because they have to play the Bengals, the Jets twice, the Niners twice. They have to play the Bengals, the Jets twice, the Niners, the Dolphins twice, the Texans, the Jags, the Bears, the Rams, the Colts, the Bills twice. I mean, that's about it. I mean, this is a tough schedule. So, yeah, because I don't really know how good Drake May is going to be. Because if Drake May, if he could be bet, because if Drake May, if he could be good, if he could be like a good quarterback, because I feel like if he can at least be a good quarterback for his team, maybe he be the next CJ Stroud or something like that. Maybe he can. Like I don't really know how good he's gonna be. Like I have questions about is he gonna be the next CJ Stroud? Will he be good in his first year by doing that? And will he improve? Like will he start? Will he be the starter week 1? Like who knows? Like I still have questions about their offensive line because I think their offensive line is still a bit sketchy. Their receiving core doesn't have a lot of talent, even though I like the pieces they have. The running game is very solid, but not great. The defense is pretty good and is going to keep them in a lot of games. They got Gerard Mayo coaching it, and I feel like he could definitely be a good coach for the future. I feel like Drake May could be the future of the quarterback for the next few years, especially years to come. So yeah. So 5-12 is my record for the Patrons, but I hope they prove me wrong. So I don't really know because I kind of want the Patrons to be good. I really like the Patrons. I want to see them be good. I don't want them to be bad. So I mean, but that's how I kind of feeling about the Patrons. 5-12 is a record. Maybe they can be better than that. Maybe they can win at least 8-9. Maybe they go 8-9 at best. Maybe like 2 to 3 wins at worst. Something like that. So yeah. But I feel like the Patrons can go somewhere from at least 4 to 7 wins, but I'm sticking with 5 because of a tougher schedule. So yeah. So so that's how I feel about the Patrons. I got them at 5-12 as a record. Well, thank you guys for watching. Don't forget, if you disagree with me, just let me know in the comments section below what you think. Do you think I'm right? Do you think I'm wrong? Just let me know in the comments section below what you guys think about the Patrons. Well, this is Emmanuel Jones, I'm a big fan. Thank you guys for watching. See you guys later in the next video. Peace.